Scale is something that it's hard to not consider it. I know sometimes we get caught up in a lot of the time spent viewing and available GRPs, but really from a scalability standpoint, with people cutting the cord and cable no longer in 90 or 100 million homes, and the streaming platforms, while some of them have what we would have historically considered scale, a lot of them are 8 million, 12 million, 15 million homes. As a media planner and somebody who executes, it makes it really hard to have a singular kind of reporting cadence and a singular data flow, because you've got so many disparate buys that you're doing. So what I look to do is instead of maybe buying directly through a vendor direct buy, is look at some of the people have the capability to buy across all the platforms. So you could buy Tubi and Fubo and Roku all in the same platform. So while you may pay an extra couple of percentage, which nobody likes to do, sometimes the ability to have that singularity in the data and the planning outweighs the couple of percentage points that you might have to pay above and beyond that.
Now, what about when you're trying to do advanced targeting, which is kind of the promise of CTV?
Yeah.
If you're trying to do that at scale, and does that lend itself to an upfront buying model or not really?
Potentially, the issue again, coming from the connected TV and trying to make connected TV and linear TV work together, is you really have to see it as a single ecosystem, because each advertiser is different. A CPG, FMCG brand that's got scale, they look at linear and streaming together very differently than a direct to consumer small e-com brand, or even a direct to consumer larger a larger D2C e-com brand. Whether you're still trying to build awareness and consideration, or if you've already got a mature brand, whether it's a brand that's grocery store based or retail based versus a brand that's online. Again, you're going to use that combination of linear and streaming very differently. So it's really about what is the characteristics of the marketer first, and then that really will kind of lay out the tactical deployment of how you work your kind of your video ecosystem. I think a lot of times people get caught up in video. Obviously, it's sexy, right? Everybody wants to dive right into, what's the TV spot? What are we going to say? But video is a tactic, just like 100 other marketing elements that marketers have at their disposal, and it has to come from a strategy. And those strategies have to come from goals and objectives at the high level. So really, what I do with my clients is, and a lot of times, again, they want to dive right into the TV ad. I'm like, well, let's pause for a second. What are the goals and objectives we're trying to reach? Like, what's the KPI of the video campaign? Because everybody's going to have slightly different KPIs. And again, the KPI is going to manifest itself in what you're actually doing. But let's set the goals and objectives. Let's set the KPI, and then let's look tactically at what we can do, or let's develop a strategy on how we kind of get to those goals and objectives. And then again, the tactics will naturally flow from the strategy, which naturally flows from the goals and objectives. So, I think a lot of times we're looking at data. And again, what's the data KPI that we're looking at? Is it what I'll call a soft metric, awareness, consideration, purchase intent, or is it the hard metric, sales, ROAS, ROI, whatever acronym you want to apply to it? So I think as an agency or as a marketer, you really have to start thinking from the top down. And again, video is an important tactic, but in essence, it's a tactic among many.
You mentioned trying to look at TV holistically with one KPI or one set of KPIs. How challenging is it to blend data like data-driven linear with the more digital like CTV data that you can get and those kind of buys?
Yeah. It's really hard. Again, one of my bigger clients is a retail CPG client. It's bought at retail. Unless a data flow ties into IRI or Nielsen Catalina, which is providing actual sales data, there's always going to be a huge chasm between the attribution, the data for media, and the actual sales. And there's a lot of companies who have access and who make it a point to access IRI or Catalina data. But when I'm working with that client, a lot of my conversations with CTV in the streaming world, it focuses on that because honestly, I'm not an I'm not driving to my website. So all the data regarding driving to the site, not applicable. Then the next level they usually go to is foot traffic. And I'm selling a product at a grocery store with 400,000 other products at a grocery store. So to think my product is going to generate foot traffic at Kroger when 40 million people a week go to the grocery store, that's not realistic either. So really from that standpoint, the data I really need is that IRI or Catalina data to see how it's impacting sales. The other end of the spectrum, obviously, are the D2C e-com clients where that data stream is really, really important. It ties into either their media attribution, or if they even have a more robust media mix modeling platform. We know that the benefit of video, and I try to even refrain from streaming versus linear, I just call it video, but the benefit of video, if you don't have the right measurement solution, you're really cheating yourself, because we know that the video has an impact on search traffic. It has an impact on website traffic. And again, that needs to be properly modeled all within the same kind of MMM platform. But yeah, I mean, how you use data and the uses of data and the kind of companies that are using it, it's certainly not a one size fits all approach at all.
Can you talk about some of the work that you're doing with Comcast and their specifically Audience Express?
Yeah, I use when I referred to again in the beginning of the conversation, when I referred to their platforms that have across the full spectrum of multi inventory providers. Audience Express is certainly one of those companies that we work with. I'll tend to work with Audience Express, and really when I work with a vendor, I look at it as how can I use their information on the front end and on the back end. So with an Audience Express, on the front end, we can do some pretty advanced targeting. What we've done in the past is whether it's been, the age sex traditional demo, that's low hanging fruit. That everybody should do that. But tying into third party data, that's helpful. Tying into first party data is great. What we've been able to do with my packaged goods client is really they have custom segments. And we were able to actually import those custom segments into their platform. So when we look at cable networks or something, so one of the things I'll use them for is, okay, let's take whatever targeting we want to go with, and you provide me then the list of, a cable ranker, basically, of the cable networks. And while we don't use that as the Bible, it's a valuable input along with the efficiency and the ability for those networks to have some unduplicated reach. Because what you find a lot is when you get into targeting, so many people kind of lose that aspect of, okay, it might rank really high. It might have a nice index, but if it's really inefficient, is that network that indexes at 105 that's half the price? Are two of those impressions not better than the one impression at the high index? And then also, again, if those high indexing networks don't reach a lot of people, really quickly, all you're going to do is start over frequencing the same people and not building any scalable reach. So with Audience Express, again, we'll do a lot of kind of demo ranking and cable network ranking on the front end. On the back end, their dashboards are good. Obviously tracking weekly impressions and weekly reach across linear and streaming is something that's of value. And obviously with any platform that I look at, that dashboard is great for kind of next week reporting, which again, it's not the old days of cable where, your MSA report was going to be, 60 days after the end of the quarter. So it's a lot more immediacy in the terms of data. Still not there about, being able to optimize schedules in real time on cable. I don't think we're great there yet, but definitely a good step in the right direction.
What advice do you have for fellow advertisers who are looking to make sure they're reaching and engaging with their total TV audience?
Yeah, have a good planning tool if possible that will get you the KPI. Again, it all comes back to the KPIs. Here's your KPI. How can I manage it? Is there a platform? A lot of the vendors, a lot of the unfortunately the days of the agencies having a lot of great tech stacks and platforms, those days are dwindling. So it's really the vendors who have the ability to get deep into the data. So, again, for me, one of the biggest KPIs that I've always been looking at is unduplicated reach, right? So again, I want to, in a perfect world during a campaign, if I could tell a platform, hey, I want to maximize my unduplicated reach against this demographic, but at a frequency cap of X, that's kind of the golden goose or the holy grail for me. I don't think the industry is there yet. What we can do, and the way streaming and linear works together now, the ability to suppress, when you're working in streaming, and the ability to suppress impressions that have been seen on linear. So, you're, again, going back to that unduplicated audience. I know in streaming, if I can reach people who I haven't reached in TV, at least I know it gives me a sense, again, that I'm doing what I can do to kind of optimize that unduplicated reach.
Eric, lastly, can you speak to a few examples, perhaps, of how you've been able to use cross-platform TV buys to drive KPIs or full funnel business goals?
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, the packaged goods client, that again, we don't really need a lot of the data associated with streaming. But one of the platforms we did was we wanted to test if we put an ad in the morning or in the afternoon or at night, what's the receptivity to that ad? And really the best way we could think of was giving $1 off coupon to the product at retail. So we went to work with a CTV provider, and we said, okay, in the morning, we want, really, it's one buy, but we're going to break it out by day part. And basically, you're going to see the ad on the screen. On the left-hand part of the screen, there's $1 off coupon. You can pause the ad, you enter in your mobile number, you get a text message with a link to redeem the ad, and you can redeem it at retail. So the technology was great to be able to do some kind of promotion, but really for us, it was a Trojan horse to see, again, from a time of day perspective, what's the receptivity to that message. We had an assumption that it was in the morning, and knock on wood, that's what we found. And what we found out, that the people either pausing the ads and getting the coupon and then ultimately redeeming the coupon, the take rates were a lot higher in the morning than they were in prime time. So that's one way to use kind of a function of connected TV. In terms of using the data for connected TV, again, when it feeds into a robust attribution platform, that's always going to be the best way to go. So again, a lot of people are looking at the data, but I always stress that if you don't have the platform on the back end to actually make sense of it, it's nice to have it, but it's not you're not capable of doing anything with the data. You have the data, but you don't know how that data is actually working with all the interplay between all your other media tactics that you're doing. And that's really important. And also the ability to measure the incrementality of the media versus just the full value of the media. So what I always stress too with any of those platforms is, there's for most products that have been established somewhat, there's a base volume of sales. So if a product, if 40% of people are going to buy that product, whether you advertise or not, then the media in the short term really isn't driving 100% of sales. It's driving the 60% of incremental sales. So many times we're taking the data and applying it to 100% of the sales, which really puts marketers in a bad position and then really gets them sideways pretty quickly. It doesn't really give them the full view of how their media is actually working for them.